Just a huge push um, from our state, from our system level, to start early college high schools. Is that anything any of you all are having going on? We have 58 institutions in the North Carolina Community College system. Of those 58, I think there are only 2 that do not have an early college on their campus or affiliated with them. So we just started ours this year, but I was part of a pilot program for it. And they sent Dr. James out to a local high school to teach. And the last time I was in a high school, they were smoking cigarettes in the bathroom and nobody had the internet. So it was a whole lot different walking in, and I teach adults. I teach adults how to do very technologically driven, concepts and ideas. So really different. But what just floored me, has knocked me out, is this new generation of young adults coming in are different than what I'm used to teaching. Night and day different. And you guys have talked about a lot of this already today. The real fast pull out the phone and look something up. Boom, I'm talking about, that's ingrained. Right now, and some of my students that would be considered high school seniors, they don't remember life before they weren't born when 9/11 happened. They do not remember life before text messaging and FaceTiming their friends. It's a different world, and I found that that's transcending into the classroom, and this is what's coming, and I think it's going to be coming fast to us. Somebody else this morning mentioned a really neat topic was, we've kind of made it through the technology phase, right? Do we use it the best or not? No, but that changed what we do in the classroom. But the young people that are on their way to our classrooms, it's going to lead to a fundamental change in how we teach, how we interact with them, what their needs are. It's going to be. So this kind of prompted me to get outside of my comfort zone in my studies of quality and to really start examining some other things. And whenever I found this comfort zone on transitioning from information to knowledge to wisdom and this, it started clicking with me and making sense. So what I was hoping to do is, and I hope that this presentation isn't under your standards, is less academic rigorous than what I normally would like to do. But I want to share with you that I've been doing and how I think that some of this has, and what I'm observing, because this is new to me, this is new ground. I'm thinking that this may be something that could help seed ideas for other people and start growing some things. So today what I want to do is to go over just our body of knowledge. What's our literature dealing with student success? Okay, and that can be, and we can argue and debate and everything how we define student success. We'll just keep it kind of high level. I'll talk a little bit about my college, Carteret Community College. We're located on the southern Outer Banks of North Carolina. We're literally islands. To go from my house to the school, I crossed 3 bridges. We're the 3rd largest county in the state of North Carolina, but that's by just square miles. But near about 70% of that is water. You can see right here's our campus. We sit right. We have our own little beach. Our students go fishing, in between classes. It's a little different, but you can see we're just water everywhere. Talk a little bit about that, but the main thing that happened was in September of last year. Anybody remember Hurricane Florence? We're seeing that on the news. It hit us head on. We had the strongest recorded wind and rainfall. This is one of my students. We'll meet some of these guys later, but Mr. Michael Taylor's one of my students. In the town he lives in, they got 36 inches of rain in 2 days. There's no way it can drain that fast, especially whenever you imagine this rising up, the rain. I mean, just devastation. We'll talk a little bit about that some, and how this led into a research project and into this kind of more so of an experiment of some different styles of learning and how that would transcend into the classroom a little bit. So in the literature, I've tried to summarize it just very briefly, but most of the leading scholars, anybody know Vincent Tinto and George Koo, Martin, there is Pascarella, Terenzini. There's a whole there's a whole body of scholars who just really study what causes a student to enroll in school, what causes them to stay in school, what causes them to eventually get a degree, you know, that do this type of analysis. And they largely, all of them focus on two parts. They focus on academics and they focus on social, right? And think about it, makes perfect sense. If you fail everything, are you going to stay in school? Probably not, unless you're just personally just extremely wealthy and nobody cares you make all F's. I imagine most schools would let you continue to enroll at an open door community college, but for a lot of places you can't, right? So you have to make the grades. Number two is that they, and this is, again, high level. Number two is the social aspect, and they're talking about you have, to a certain extent, one needs to enjoy being in school. They need to enjoy their classes, or your motivation to go to that class that you hate all your classmates, you hate the topic, you hate the material, you hate the teacher, you hate the school, you hate everything about it. Your likelihood of staying in that class or doing well in it diminishes, right? I've taken their model, and that's their main models. We'll get into some of that, but I've taken theirs and expanded it to a third component, financial. And part of this is there's a lady in Washington, D.C. named Sandy Baum with the College Board, who's just done extensive research over her career in this area of college affordability. And one of the main things is the cost of a college education skyrocketed. We know that. That's just, it's skyrocketed if you think about over the past 30 years. It's outpaced the cost of medical expenses. It's outpaced the cost of retail expenses, housing. It's just skyrocketed. We're talking about just, you know, 1,000% increase over the past 30 years, just astronomical. So when these leading researchers were doing this in the 70s, 80s, early 90s, and were establishing the seminal literature that, like you were saying, you know, just because somebody's name's on it, we know that's who we need to do. I got to read that, and I better put it in my thing if I want to, you know, get him street cred, right? But it hasn't got so expensive at that time, right? And that's where the financial comes in. Just think about it. If you don't have money, how are you going to go to school? You know, if you can't afford to buy sandwiches, you know, can you afford to buy textbooks, right? So there's got to be some aspect of the financial in terms of leading to this larger concept of student success. So I tried to not kill you all with PowerPoints. And for those, these two can testify. I never use them in my class because I used to hate it when people made me sit and stare at PowerPoints for an hour. Remember, I'm busy. I can't really sit and stare too much. So I made y'all some handouts. There's two of them. And one of the reasons for doing this, I wanted something you could take home with you. And whether you want to use it or not, you know, of course it's up to you, but there's some good literature in here with sites and things that if you go and have a faculty committee meeting or something like this, maybe this is something that can help you. So the one that says conceptual framework is kind of my conceptual framework that I pulled off of Vincent Tempo's and kind of elaborated that into financial component. Basically, yeah, just in a nutshell, they're just saying there's a whole lot of things that influence a student's decision to stay in school. There's a ton of them, right? There are things that are in our control and there are things that are out of our control. I can't help it if someone's parent passes away during the middle of a semester. That's out of my control. And they have to drop out to take care of a sibling or something. You know, that's out of my control. Can I help provide student services or tutoring services or run some data and identify someone who may be classified as at risk and have somebody reach out to them on a coaching basis? Yeah, of course I can, right? Things in and out of ours. So if you kind of thumb through this, you'll see my conceptual framework for this is on page 2, but it really says that, you know, certain things that we know about. Family background, right? Do you have a support system at home? Do you have somebody cheering for you? You know, what kind of school did you, there's a big difference in going to a low-income inner-city school that may be seriously underfunded and, you know, you're lucky to get out alive, right? As compared to a very elite, very expensive private school, right? There's a difference in being what we may consider college prepared for this. Goals and commitments. You know, are you going to party? Are you going to study, right? we get into the institutional experiences, kind of gets to the other part. Do you enjoy your faculty members, your staff members? Do you interact with them? Do you have things on an after-class basis where maybe a club or organization where you feel more ingrained into the institution? That's what this is really getting into, is it's not just looking at a student in terms of, I show up for class at 10 o'clock, I leave at 11:15 on Tuesdays, right? It's more of, I want to go there. There's something for me to do, whether it's sitting in the student center and just being a part of a campus, or having something to engage you outside of a classroom. And then the cycle continues of every semester reevaluating. Is this it? I know some of y'all are economists, so please forgive me on this. It's almost, to me, it seems like it's where that you have to make that decision of, is my investment worth the return that I'm getting right now, and also the return that I see getting several years from now? And it's make that decision, and that keeps going for the enrollment. But if you got some time and you're so interested in it, let's get a little handout. Might help you a little bit along the way. The next one I made for us is more of a focus on, because largely this stuff's being researched and published to death. There's tons of this stuff out here, right? This is where I came in at, was the financial part of this I wanted to bring up, because I think that's, present day, that's one of the larger concerns. We've got student centers with all this stuff. We have academic coaches and advisors, and we've really adjusted our colleges to some of this, but I don't think we necessarily focus on what I call financial competency, right? I don't like using the term financial literacy. I don't think that's right. I don't know. Something about that just kind of scares me. Either you're literate or you're not literate. I don't know if I buy into that. So I try to put financial competency. And some of these stats in here are surprising to me, and I think you would find some of this interesting. At a study at Bowling Green State University of their entire freshman class in 2009, near about 50% reported that money made them feel stressed on a regular basis. That's one out of every two in your room at any given time sitting there worrying about paying their cell phone bill or something, right? That's got to influence academic performance. It's got to influence the social interactions, right? That leads itself to picking up more hours. And right now in the literature, we know that 20 hours a week of a student working is kind of the baseline. That and under is successful. If you start crossing over 20 hours a week, according to different research, academics performance has experienced a decline. 17%, same study, 17% said they always or sometimes think about dropping out of school due to finances. Some of this is just really, to me, is scary. But again, there's a decent amount of stuff in here. Also, I put in something in here with student loan default rates. College is expensive. For those who borrow money to go to school, you need to finish school, because if you don't get the earning power associated with that degree and be able to get that additional income, you're talking about some serious debt the rest of your life that you can't file bankruptcy and get rid of. It stays with you forever. So there are just some neat things in here. I'm definitely not trying to demonize student loans. If it weren't for student loans, I wouldn't be here today. I'm a community college graduate. I never was even expected to be able to spell the word school. I'm talking about, I came about it right out of the middle of the tobacco field down the dirt path. If it weren't for loans, I couldn't have made it. So I don't mean to say it in a negative way. I just need to bring it up that we need to be conscious of what we're expecting some of these students to do, and there are a decent amount they're leaving with well over $100,000 in debt, and finishing up 3 years or staying in school as long as they can get a Pell Grant and then dropping out without ever getting a degree. But good information to keep around if you'd like. So there's a Jimmy Buffett song, and we live at the beach, right? So that's kind of important to us. But trying to reason with hurricane season. You may have heard that song by Jimmy Buffett. That's about what we talk about for at least 3 or 4 months out of the year. So this is actually one of our students. This is the beach, kind of across the bridge from campus. But I'll give you a little idea about us. We're on we call it the SOBX, the Southern Outer Banks. For those of y'all who have ever been on vacation out here, we're the far end of that chain of islands. We have typically around 2,000 students, curriculum students. Of that, I'd like to say 2,000. Really, we have about 500 full-time students. Of the other 1,500, they're people who take one class at nighttime or not full-time, right? We have a ton of working professionals, a ton of people. We have about typically about 5,000 in a given year that take a continuing education course with us. A lot of that is due to, we have a very large retirement community down here. We have vacation houses, and we keep people busy if they want it. You can take a class on a Saturday afternoon in pottery, and you never know who in the world is going to show up for some of these things. So we do have a significant amount of students in there. For our main curriculum, we focus on applied sciences with a marine trades focus, boat building, marine diesel mechanics, aquaculture in terms of growing shellfish and studying fish, marine biology. So we really focus heavily on that, but that translates to jobs in our area. Again, we do obviously do the college transfer stuff, but this is more of our kind of niche in this. But here's the problem that happened, right? So this big thing right here came and hit us dead on bullseye in September. Mike, you want to share a little bit about what happened to you?
Yeah, hi y'all, I'm Michael. I'm 22 years old. Yeah, Florence came by and just kind of smacked us that Thursday, I think it was. And that night I had gone to sleep and I had woke up with some water hitting me in the face, which is obviously it's not normal in my house. And I looked at my brother's room and it's pouring down rain in there. Like there's no roof, there's no ceiling. It's just like you just pouring water on the ground almost. And about I think it was 142 hours later we got power and everything back, which is crazy because we're not really bad off country, obviously, with the United States of America. So it was kind of crazy knowing that we were out of power for that long, and then after that we had to leave. We had mold, we were water damaged. We just for the longest time we were actually living on the concrete floors of our house. We had ripped up all the floor and everything. So it was definitely a pretty eye-opening, especially because I was going through this stuff at the time as well. So it was weird. A lot of learning came out of that one.
Our area got decimated, just point blank period. It was decimated. This is probably one of the main numbers here. Almost $20 billion in damage. Now that's not just exclusively to our county. That's the surrounding about 4 or 5 counties. But our area as a whole now, we just got rocked. 150,000 people receiving some sort of FEMA assistance, and these are the people who like were the Michaels that had to get out of the houses because of mold, damage, it just uninhabitable. A lot of people left, and still don't know where they went. You know, the house was destroyed. They aren't coming back. They're gone. At the school, so a couple of different ways to do it. With us, it posed a challenge. Number one, with our location, we have large universities in our backyard. We got, 3-4 hours away, Duke University, UNC Chapel Hill, NC State, East Carolina University, University of North Carolina, Wilmington. Then we have a couple of private colleges around there, but we have some academic powerhouses in this area. The problem was, when everything's flooded, the roads are destroyed, this body of researchers and knowledge, they aren't capable of getting to us. We're out here. And there were problems like Michael's mentioning, the mold, the mildew, which almost requires specialized tools and training for somebody who can go in and do these testing of, is this place inhabitable or not, or habitable or not, excuse me. Computer science guy, right? I'm not all numbers yet. Okay, but so I had some colleagues at North Carolina State University, and they had received a grant. It's called the NC Space Grant. It was done through NASA, but it was to study STEM fields and this. And I reached out to them and just said, hey, is there anything that you guys can do to help us during this time? Here's what I'm thinking about. I'll show you what our project was about. Okay, and these are this is home, or this was home. Thankfully, it's a lot better now, but it's still kind of rough. But with the NC Space Grant, the main thing was we have all these businesses and houses and displaced people, and they do not know if they can live in this house because with black mold and some of these things, you can't see it. It can be existing behind this wall and nobody knows, right? Do I know anything about mold? No. Can I write you a computer program? Yeah. You know, if I need some specifications. But where this challenge came in at is we had a college full of educated and trained, you know, researchers at various levels, at people who have a desire, and for those of you all who work at a community college, you get it, you know, it's a labor of love. that's why we do this, right? But we care about our communities. And when this happened, reached out, secured some funding through this grant that allowed us to go, and we bought 10 portable air quality readers. So that opened up the next part of this proposal I made was, I want students to get out in the community. One, where they're paid for their time. Two, it relates to their coursework. And three, they're going to get academic credit for it. They're going to serve the community. They're going to be able to provide a service that just is non-existent in our area. So we were able to secure the equipment. We're able to secure the funding for around, let's see if my next slide has it, around 50 students participated in this and are still participating in this, namely two of mine that are here today with me. We covered 4 curriculum classes. So I really took all of my computer science programs or courses that I'm teaching this semester, and I built the spring semester classes. And you were right earlier. It's a lot of work. You know, I have basically a rubber stamp for teaching a Java programming class. It's already built in my Moodle or my Blackboard. You know, I've got all my handouts. So I got out of my comfort zone. It's a lot of work, but it's been awesome. It's been so worth it. But I wrote it where not only were they kind of transitioned from taking the test, taking the midterm, to you're going out on a Monday and collecting data, and then you're coming back to class and the group is building a database together, and then they're learning how to use SPSS to, what does R mean whenever I hit the button? How do I format data? What about if something's missing and doesn't look right? You know, at a community college, we'll take an algebra class, but you know, a lot of my students don't take regression analysis and these things, right? But you know, in a computer programming context or technology world that we're getting in now, we need to know what to do with data. So I had 10 students collecting data. There's 2 of them, right? Class of 24 students in a programming and logic course did most of the analysis. And they learned how to write some code in SAS. That was pretty cool. We also learned how to not only make our own run SPSS, but you know, by the defaults, but how to make SPS output, do certain things, post it to websites, make it interactive, kind of the data analytics part. 2 students documenting findings, and this one's cool. I got a guy that's in boat building, in our boat building program, right? And I know that sounds kind of foreign to some of you all. The guys in boat, and ladies, there's some ladies every now and then, in boat building, they're not the ones that like taking English class. You know what I mean? They're not the ones that like to sit in a lecture. They like to take a hammer and bang on something and solve something. You know, that's them. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun? And I wanted people around campus. I didn't want it all my students. I wanted to get people from everywhere who had some interest in serving their community. And this guy did. He's like, I'm from, and he named a little area that's out, you know, a couple bridges away. And he said, you know, we're all just, I think that'd be neat to do it. And then, you know, just in talking to him, I just talked about the different things. You know, would you like to collect data? Would you like to do this? And he was like, man, I think that'd be kind of neat. I always wanted to write a book about boat building. I was like, we can try to write a journal article and see if that can help you at least learn a little bit more about writing, to see if that's something you want to write a book about wooden boat building in. So the benefits of this have just kind of, they kind of happened. I didn't quite know what to expect, right? I have a young lady in a project management course who's helping out, filling out paperwork in my reports for the grant administration. A student in photography in our fine arts program I got her to go around and take pictures of different things and all of this stuff. So I was able just to a certain extent, pull these interdisciplinary, I think that's the word y'all were using earlier. I was able to pull some of these together, right? And to form this group where in these classes, like the photography, the project management, the boat building, some of these, I negotiated with their professors, like, I want the student to work with me. This is how many hours they're going to be doing. Can we build this in to where that they can get assignment credit for their class? And it worked out where that they're all, yeah, that's sure, yeah, no trouble. Thankfully, we're a very small college, and we all know each other by our first names, and it's easy to pick up the phone, and I call it horse trading. You know, I can horse trade around the college a little bit. But that was kind of how we got started with this, okay? And again, these are pictures from around home. You can see this would be like somebody's backyard, right? The question is that house are you breathing in stuff that's going to take years off your life or not? We don't know. So we bought the equipment. We got the official forms from the EPA on what the numbers mean. You know, if something is certain number of particles per millimeter for you scientists. But we can follow the guides, right? We can program these things. And we went around to around 200 different locations for free and did these air quality readings and provided the people with information of, is it safe for you to live in here and breathe in here? Is it safe for you to work in here? Not going to get to it. We just did basically a group study, right? 50% reported no damage, 50% reported damage. And we went after people who reported damage to a roof because that's what, and like around home, everything still has these big blue tarps on the roofs. It's still like that, right? And that was the main thing. Are they safe to stay in? We tested for mold, mildew, dust, these airborne things, large and small particles. Those that reported minor damage, about 40%, a little less, said that they found, there was something found that was minor, right? And this looks mine. I think it was the EPA. No, it was the CDC, I guess, that put out the guides that we went by. But it said, you know, what's livable and what's not. And there was about 40% were kind of at that livable, not livable range. But we were able to tell people that then they know, do I need to hire a mold cleanup crew or something, as opposed to just patching the roof and thinking everything's good. 2 locations that reported no damage were deemed very unsafe. One was a local cabinet shop. Anybody have any idea why? Because they're sawing wood all day and building cabinets. It just never cleaned up the wood or the dust from it, and it just was in there, and it was like pretty significant. The other one was a local gym's locker room, and can't quite figure that one out. I guess it's musty towels or something. I don't know. But anyway, we did those. But with all that, we remained confidential. Didn't go tell the town to send out the inspector. But we kind of thought you may want to look at this.
The storm or just general damage?
This was other than these 2, everything was storm related.
Okay, so those are just.
They were outliers that didn't expect. We asked people in the community, if you would like these free services, you know, Carteret Community College is happy to do this for you. We'll do it. And we did it. We had findings, okay? Another picture. Wow. Findings. I had some students, yeah, I want to do this, man. I'd love to make some extra money. Couldn't find them, couldn't get them to sign a piece of paper, couldn't get them to do anything. Some would show up, do one day. Some go all the way to DC with me. I mean, I've had everything. Probably the most surprising thing, about 25% of the students that worked on this with me, of what I'd consider to be a traditional college student age group, that 18 to 25 group, they had never filled out an employment application before.
Wow.
That just blew my mind.
Wow.
And I had a lot of them. I would ask them, "You ever had a job before?" Yeah. Well, all right. What'd you do? Well, I pushed the lawnmower and cleaned up the grandmother's yard. She usually pays me about $30-40. You know, but they've never gone through of, I've got to fill out I-9. I have to fill out a W-2. I have to fill out this paperwork. I found, just off the start, I found that I was spending more time initially up front teaching students how to fill out job applications. I never in my classes ever guessed that. I just thought that I'm teaching them how to be a computer programmer. When they leave me, they go get a good job being a computer programmer. I never thought that nobody here's ever taken the time to say, hey, you may need to learn how to fill out a job application. So that's one finding that we have that we've updated our Career Center to do a little bit more with. Some of the other things that we found is, this is my take on it. I'm going to let these guys kind of share their opinion on it. I found that I've got students now different than I've ever had them before. I have them where that I see them coming to class early. I see them staying late. I see them forming groups like, hey, I'm going to go so-and-so and collect some data tonight. You want to go? Yeah, that sounds, you know, and I'm talking about they're meeting up and doing this kind of stuff outside the classroom, you know, without me having to bribe them or anything. And I don't, right now, I'm still making my way through it. I'm still ongoing with this. I have not been able to put my finger on exactly what that motivating factor was or what it is. I know that something is, the difference is I've gone from standing in the front of the room and they're sitting behind computers and doing stuff to, and it's kind of somebody else talked about this a little bit earlier. They're now getting outside the classroom and they have time during class to go do it. I thought we're totally open. If you want to go collect data on 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning, go for it. Because that's cool. I don't know if anybody else has done that or not. And they want to be the person who's done something a little different, or to somebody who found that the gym locker is, you know, they're excited about this. One guy brought something in that was just absolutely crazy one morning. I said, where in the world did you go? It was like so bad. Air levels, how it'd kill you in like a minute or something. I was like, where'd you go? He said, I put it up the tailpipe of my truck this morning. And, you know, but I'm talking, that's what they're doing. They are just, I mean, they're off and running with this thing. I asked a lot of them to go and do, or for the most time I asked them to go and do 20 locations. I had one guy show up with 60 one day. And I was like, well, just pick out some and give it. But it's that excitement of it. And I haven't been able to, you know, as a data person, I like to be able to say that, you know, 62.3%, you know, certainty this is statistically significant. You know, I haven't been able to wrap my mind around it. And that's where I'm coming to you guys, and I'm hoping to share some of this is, I know something about this is working, okay? Was it a lot of work? Yeah, we know that. Yeah, I had to write a grant, I had to make phone calls, I had to hit my network to make it happen. I had to teach people how to fill out job things. I have to do monthly reporting on this grant. You know, it's a lot of work. I had to redesign my classes. I had to redesign my whole semester. That took more time over Christmas break or the holiday break than I wanted to spend. You know, I'm sitting there with my laptop on Christmas Eve and still trying to put together, you know, my courses for the spring. Teaching went a little different. I'm now questioning if my classrooms, because I told you I use the same classroom, right? I think a lot of us do. I don't know if my classroom's set up right, because it's, you know, a lectern up here and it's rows with computers on it. I don't need rows. Rows aren't doing it. I was sitting here today thinking, man, if I had a square and could push them in to where that they could not have desktops, but they had a cart with laptops, and everybody could get a laptop, and it doesn't matter who you sit beside, you can just grab your laptop, like, oh, let me show you what I did here, let me show you what I did, and you can move around. I think that, and that's what we started going more towards was and you guys know the deal, they sit in the same seats every class, right? That's my seat, right? I even have students fight over the computer, so I say down the desktop, you get away from my computer, right? I think we need to break some of these. I think that's the way. I don't think my standing in front of the room is useless in teaching like this. It's useless in teaching like this, right? I really, and thankfully, I know the head of technology for the college, right? So I got a new laptop that flips over and it works like a pad as well. So now I can go around the room and still have my thing instead of being tied up to my podium. Like, oh, look, here guys, check this out, right? And I can still get into them. So we're looking at now, how do I roll this out to the college community as a whole, right? Classroom redesign. Do we get rid of the desktops and the laptops and get in favor of more true mobile computing, right? my students with this are using their phones to collect the data. They just go in there in the little notes and type it in. It's kind of interesting. But y'all don't mind, I'd like for Michael and Sabrina to share a little bit. What do you guys think about what's coming up? You know, Michael's 22, Sabrina's 19, 20. Yeah, you see, these are the students in our room. And I thought that two parts. One with this grant is I want these students to get exposure to doing stuff like this can be fun. You know, and I don't, please excuse me for being crass, but I tell them, learning doesn't have to suck. You know, it doesn't have to. We can have fun in it. If you're not having fun learning and having fun doing something, you know, you may need to think about doing something else. And that's what I'm trying to share with them is that if you pursue an academic style career or future, you know, this is kind of what you do. You get to come up with your own ideas, your own questions, collect your data, do this, and come to Washington, D.C. Right? So what do you guys think about? What do you think's coming up?
I mean, honestly, something I feel real like intense about is how, I mean, like you said, boring class can be. I mean, it's not for everyone to just read a book and listen to some guy or woman talk. A lot of times that's just kind of lame. We like hands-on stuff. We like learning through doing. Like I have a photography class that I've fallen in love with, and I get to go out and actually take photos instead of just read a prompt on the screen and take a test about why is my micro lens of 2.8 millimeter. I don't care about that. I want to go take a photo of a butterfly. I want to go out and just experience nature. And like with computers, I'm not going to learn reading a book about, hey, you know, if this is that, do this or else do that. Like no, I want to type code out. I want to see if I mess up, I messed up. I want to learn from that more than you can take a test and put A, B, C, or D or guess and maybe get it right. Teaching can be enjoyable, so can learning, but I think we're still stuck in the past of the 50s and 60s, you know, the early beginnings of it all. And I think, like you said, the students I can pull up my phone during a test and grab a quick answer on Google, and then y'all want to know about it. And it's kind of, I'm not saying be more like predatorial and like attack your students kind of thing, but like it's testing and student learning has evolved so much more than it was X amount of years ago, and I just think like it's time we kind of catch up on that.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel too. Cause I'm that person. I do love learning things, and like anything new literally perks up my interest. But it's like, you know, sometimes I find myself it's hard to like just sit and actually like read a book or study and stuff like that. And I feel like I would learn better if I had like hands-on stuff and I'm doing things in the computer instead of like he was saying and like Mr. Blalock was saying, just studying and just the tests and quizzes and things like that. And yeah.
We were talking on the way up here, and I made a comment to him. I said, I got you learning and you don't even know you're learning. I promise you there is something to this approach. I promise you there's something to it. I've seen it in the grades, I've seen it in the participation, I've seen it in the excitement, I've seen it in students staying after class. Class time's over, it's 11:15, and I'm going to lunch. And they're still hanging out in the room, talking about this stuff. I don't quite know how to pinpoint it, but
And clubs really do, clubs and organizations really do help, because there's this one that's starting, a women's movement, and I'm actually the whole purpose of it is just to become more social and, do more things, study together, go out, go eat, go on trips like this that we just went to Washington, D.C. And I was really excited to go here because it's I've never really been to a conference before. So, that really was exciting to me. And it's just something that I feel like it motivates people in, changing up the classroom setup too sometimes. It's you kind of when you have all those rows like that, you just keep to yourself in your section, your computer, versus if you had something like this, a circle, you can, like you were saying, you'll be more social, hey, can I help you with this, can I help you with that, kind of thing. And
okay, very good.
Yeah, thanks.
So I also want to applaud you for that.